evening, everybody, and happy Thursday. It's time for Fire Up. I hope everybody's fired up and ready for, March Madness to start soon. We're into the college basketball season. It is the start of all the tournaments. Well, actually, not the start. Some of the tournaments are almost over here already. Selection Sunday is coming up this Sunday. And we're talking, there's so much happening. NFL free agency. There's been so much movement this week since it started. Those are the topics that we're going to talk about besides my town. But I am going to introduce my wonderful cast tonight. We'll start with my co-host, Mr. Smokin' Jeremy B. How are you tonight?
Fantastic, Candy. Happy to be here. Let's talk some sports.
Let's talk some sports. And then we're going to talk Mr. Ralph Williams. Thank you for joining us back tonight.
You're welcome, Candy. George, Jeremy, it's great to be here. Thank you.
And then none other than Mr. George Eichhorn.
Hello, Candy. Hi. Good to be on. Good to see everyone again.
Good to see you too. Okay, so March Madness is here. Let's face it, there has been lots going on lately. There has been a lot of tournaments going on. I can tell you my team, one of my teams, because I have a couple teams. The Badgers did play today, and they played, and even their second team played, and maybe even their third team played because they routed Maryland. I actually was off today because I'm working Saturday. So I actually got to watch part of this game. I was out for part of it. But they ended up winning 87-56. They crushed Maryland. They made for threes, they made 16 out of 25, 64%. At one point, it was like 75% that they had made threes. And it was everybody. They were spreading it around. It was crazy. Tonight would be a big game because it will be Marquette versus Villanova. And so that is going to be actually should be starting, I believe. I think it might have already started or it's just starting because I think it was 9-something tonight. So those are two of the teams that I really follow. Obviously, I also follow FAU. I believe they play tomorrow. I'm not positive about that. I'll check on that. But Jeremy, you want to talk about any of the college games?
My Wolverines suck. They're out. That's pretty much it. I check out once that happens. March Madness loses much appeal if I don't have my Homer team in there.
I understand. Ralph, how about you?
Well, the three teams, Candy, of relevance in Pittsburgh is Robert Morris, Duquesne, and Pitt. Robert Morris was out in the first round. They've been stinking up the joint for the last 4 years. They're getting out of this Colonial Conference and getting back into the Northeast. Duquesne, on the other hand, they won 20 games for the first time in a long time, and they're on their way to possibly being in the NCAA. They just won their first tournament game, and they're moving on to a second game. And Pitt beat Wake Forest today. They're playing North Carolina tomorrow, and they could go to the championship game. So we have two of our three, relevant teams here that are in that could be in the tournament, or Duquesne and Pitt could be in the NIT and might end up playing each other. So we're going to find out what happens here, but it's looking pretty decent, at least on my end, for the teams in my city.
What about you, George?
Well, obviously, my focus has been on the Big Ten tournament. And you mentioned about Wisconsin winning today. And Jeremy already mentioned about Michigan getting knocked off yesterday by Penn State. Which put a cap on a horrendous season for Juwan Howard and the Wolverines. That being said, Tom Izzo pulled one out today as the Michigan State Spartans moved on. They beat Minnesota today in the Big Ten tournament. So I'm happy for that. But again, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this. I don't know if Izzo is going to need another win in the tournament or not. But I don't. I think they'll probably still get into the big dance. But it would be nice though if they could go one step further and win their next matchup. And then, of course, locally located in Rochester, Michigan, the Oakland University Grizzlies, and they have qualified. Their tournament's already over. They won Monday night on March the 11th to, or was it Tuesday? I think it was Tuesday. They won to clinch a berth in the big dance, as they'll be the Horizon League. They are the Horizon League champion. So there is some excitement. There is some hope still for a couple of our teams, here at Michigan State and Oakland University.
Michigan State has a tough game though tomorrow. They're going up against number 3 Purdue, so that'll be a tough matchup for them. I think.
Yeah, Purdue always has a good team.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. That's at 12 noon.
That is. That is. And Scott's alma mater, USF, actually plays tomorrow at 1 p.m. as well. So it'll be interesting. But like I said, Selection Sunday is this Sunday. And then the true NC2A bracket, everybody who fills out brackets, fills them out, gets them quick in. And we officially start March Madness in the middle of the month, which I always thought was kind of funny because it's like March Madness should start earlier in the month, but it doesn't. Because then it's March Madness all the way until April, and it's like, wait a minute, no. But if you're into college basketball, March Madness, there's always some upsets. It's always interesting to see who's going to beat who and which ones. If it's going to be your favorites all the way, or if you have a lot of upsets. Like last year, we had FAU Final Four, and who would have guessed that? So you just never know. But we've had lots and lots of movement in the NFL free agency. Lots of running backs, lots of quarterbacks. I have to say, and not your first string quarterbacks, but your second string quarterbacks, a lot of movement. And you've had a lot of other movement. So, Jeremy,
yes,
since you are my NFL expert, tell me which team do you feel has improved the most with the free agency moves that they've made so far? And I'm putting you on the spot because I know I didn't, ask you this ahead of time, but I'm just curious, which you think?
I think all the teams at the top did enough just for them to hold out where they were, the top 4 teams. The one that I think that got weakened the most at the top in the NFC is San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
They lost starting defensive tackles. That's real huge with how good they were against the run. They've got to depend on the draft and finding someone in free agency that wants to play there because they're limited in cap room. Because everybody was talking about how much cap room they had left at the end of the season. They didn't have that much to start the season because of all the dead cap that rolled over. And then you got teams like Oakland, and I think they're pretty much an improved team.
You mean Las Vegas?
It's Oakland. I'll keep saying it till I die. I'm old school. I still call LA Chargers San Diego. I accidentally did it twice in articles over the past 2 years. And I know I get told I did that both times, and I still do it. Yes, Vegas. But they got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, Hunter Renfrow, and Jerry Tillery. And Jerry Tillery is still a very productive defensive tackle. I understand these are cap moves, but restructure some guys. Don't gut the whole roster and pray to God you get good in the draft because we've heard it from many GMs. It's always easier to get worse in the draft. So I think the Packers made some really good moves, but yet they lost some talent too. So I think it's more of a talent in, talent out thing. It remains to be seen. You have to see it on the field for it to work. But I love the Xavier McKinney signing, but not keeping Darnell Savage next to him makes another hole for this roster. So you get a great guy in, you got a great guy, and then you let him go because he doesn't want to restructure. It's like, what are you doing? Because they could have had the best defensive backfield in the North at the safety position. It would have been between them and Detroit. Harrison Smith restructured his contract. And yes, for the first time in 3 years, he played over 16 games. But yet, offensively, they're going to regress this year. Sam Darnold is not Kirk Cousins. And everybody says, oh, a change of scenery might do him good. He's played on 4 teams in the last 3 years now. So I think in the East, the most improved team is Philly, but after the allegations that they contacted Barkley before his contract was done, that's going to cost them draft capital that'll get sent to the Giants. So they may have hurt their team bad. And the Falcons did the same thing by getting Kirk Cousins, by finding out that they talked to Kirk Cousins personally prior to the tampering period. During the tampering period, you're only supposed to talk to agents, not players. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Minnesota regressed offensively. Justin Jefferson wants out. There's rumors of a trade possibly going on between the Bengals and Minnesota. And it would be T. Higgins, 2 firsts, and a possible conditional 3rd round pick to get Justin Jefferson there, because Justin Jefferson, after they signed Sam Darnold, turned down a $30 million per year wide receiver contract. So there's a lot of turmoil going around. Defensively, I think the most improved in the North, and as much as we all hate to say it because their defense improved last year too, it's Chicago. That's the most improved defense. Offensively, they're still the same. They haven't really gone out and got anybody to solidify that offense. They got Swift, which we all know he misses about a third of the games he plays in his career. And that's with them having a healthy season last year. But at the same time, he had the exact season I thought he would. He had 4 great games. He got 4 touchdowns, and that's it. So they got a guy that can show up for part of the season and then disappear in the rest of it. It's a good thing they still got Khalil Herbert and that rookie they drafted last year.
I'm really surprised that they haven't done anything with that first pick, because they haven't moved Justin. And the thing that surprises me is now that so many teams have moved quarterbacks and gotten backups and stuff like that, that I don't know that the market is as good, or that they would get as much as they want, either if they're going to keep Fields and then move on with their first pick, or, use that first pick, but then they would have traded Fields. And at least at this point, like, who would they trade him to? Because everybody's, so I've been baffled by that, to be honest with you. I thought they would have done something one way or the other, whether they would have, traded Fields or they would have, but so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that first pick. Mr. George, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So what is the most surprising free agent move that you've seen this free agency so far?
Well, I think
Which
it's the
one?
quarterback shuffling around. And like Jeremy mentioned, if this Kirk Cousins thing stands, that $180 million deal for Cousins to go to Atlanta was huge. And then you had, of course, Baker Mayfield deciding to stay in Tampa. And, there've been a lot of other things going on we talked about. So I think the quarterback shuffling around, like you said at the outset, Candy, some of them are starters, some of them are backups. I don't know, if the teams are happy with everybody they got. There's still some time, obviously, a few more days in the free agency, but there's also the draft, as you mentioned, coming up. So those teams that didn't really address a quarterback issue would be looking to draft somebody. And I agree with you. I think Chicago's in a bad situation now because Fields, if you were going to get rid of them, you should have worked on something now when all the quarterbacks were shifting around from here to there. So there's, as far as winners or losers go, I don't know. I don't get into that too much. I mean, Barkley, Philadelphia looks great with Barkley. If again that holds up when the league investigates whether there was tampering or not, you got a great addition to that Philadelphia offense with Barkley. And the Lions here in Detroit, the Lions added some help on defense, which was good in the secondary and on the D line. I think that what you're seeing is exactly the way, Jeremy mentioned about the top teams in the league, the Lions and the Chiefs, and you got Baltimore and San Francisco. Of all those, I agree, San Francisco is the one that didn't really move forward at all. In fact, they went a little bit backwards. So that'll be interesting to see if the 49ers can still pull some strings and get some help that they need. So it's been very exciting, very hectic. And I just got this feeling that it's even more every year. It gets a little bit more important and also more movement than we've seen. And you mentioned about the running backs too. And, Barkley was the number one guy available, but, it's an interesting time. It really is. It's fun and exciting, and you're following these guys going from one team to the other. So I think it's been a lot of fun following it, but it's a lot of pain when a lot of your stars are moving around like we saw with Barkley and with Cousins, especially.
Mr. Ralph.
Well, I
What
think
teams? I was going to ask you, what team surprises you that they've made the fewest moves or haven't made, besides San Francisco, since we've already said San Francisco?
the LA Chargers, they haven't done much. Neither has the Rams. So both teams in LA haven't done much at all. Very little signings, very little of everything here. No trades. So but that's the ones that've done the little. Steelers really haven't done much other than Russell Wilson. I mean, that was their big thing, and they brought in Patrick Queen, and I mean, and traded for this Deontay Jackson for Carolina. Other than that, that's really been all they've done. Steelers really haven't done much. I actually thought they were going to do more. They freed up a whole bunch of salary cap money, so that's. I actually thought the Steelers. I mean, other than Russell Wilson, we really haven't done anything.
Okay, I know Jeremy wants to speak.
The team that's done the absolute least and lost talent is the Dallas Cowboys. They've done nothing.
I know they haven't. Yeah, you're right.
Didn't extend Dak. They cut Tony Pollard, who's now a Titan. They're regressing. They're going to run in there with the rookie that showed out a little bit with Deuce Vaughn and some other guy I never heard of as their running backs and try to draft one. This is a very bad draft class. That's why you saw so much running back movement in free agency, more so than we've seen in the last 5 years. Because every year there's been 3 or 4 guys that were borderline first, second round talent, so they were good enough to be drafted. This year, I think the first one off the board might be the 3rd round, and you're probably talking about Jalen Wright or Braylon Allen. I mean, those are the 2 best ones I saw, that had the combination of power and speed and looked good in their drills and everything else. Everybody else just looked rather mid, including Michigan's own Blake Corum. He didn't look that great at the drills at the combine. He didn't run that great of a 40 time. What he is stronger than everybody in the draft, including most of the offensive and defensive linemen. With his 29 reps, that was almost the highest reps at the combine this year. And that's crazy that a guy, but it also leans to the effect some of these big guys can't really do the reps because their arms are so long. Blake Corum is one of those shorter, stockier guys. And at 5'9" and 216 pounds, he was just knocking them out.
Wow. Yes. I think we do have to, we should at least recognize the people that are in the chat room. Yeah. Lions signed reader. Jeremy, you want to read the next 2?
Sure. RXJ, what up, JB? Wings are pissing me off badly. They'll be all right though. Young and upcoming team in the NHL. I have my own thought on that I want to expound upon. It's been ever since they put that Waste Management owned Priority One patch on the jerseys. They haven't won a game since they put it on. Take the garbage off. And is undone.
Something stinks.
Yeah. And like I said, it's funny that Waste Management. Never mind. I'm not going there again. I don't want to get
Something
canned.
stink.
And Is undone says, "I like your piano, George."
Oh, thank you. It's a baby grand.
So, George, do you play?
No, I just fantasize about playing. Those patches aren't they, Jeremy, trust me, those patches are not going anywhere. That's a multi-million-dollar off the record deal that the Red Wings made for those patches. But it is kind of sad and ironic that you're right. They haven't even won. They haven't even tied a game. They have no points since they started putting that patch on.
They have not gone to overtime to get 1 point. And if they did that 2 or 3 times, they would still be in the play.
And to let Arizona beat you, the Wings lost again, folks, if you haven't heard, 4-1 tonight at home to the lowly Coyotes after losing to the Coyotes last week at their place. Now the Wings came home and lost it. I don't know what's going on. We'll talk about that later with my town.
Yeah. I'll let you do that.
Okay. Jeremy, any more NFL free agency talk that you want to put out there?
I mean, look at the trades that happened today. We saw Sam Howell, who looked like he might have been a decent starter for Washington to hold on to, and they could have built up that interior O-line to help the run game better, because that's where their run game is weak. It's through the interior O-line, through the centers and guards. And if you get a better center and guard, you actually will have better quarterback play too, because he's not getting pressured by the big hog mollies that weigh 300 pounds and crack your ribs. But no, they trade him away for a bag of chips. I mean,
yeah, I'm surprised they traded him away as well, Jeremy, because with Cliff Kingsbury there as our offensive coordinator, he's good to work with the quarterback. So I'm really surprised by Sam Howell. Sam Howell's a fighting kind of guy. I watched him at North Carolina, and he's just he's a gritty guy, brings a lunch pail, and so kind of a quarterback. And I don't know, we'll see.
The other crazy move is you had first rounder Rondell Moore traded from the Cardinals to the Falcons for third round pick Desmond Ritter, and no picks exchanged between the teams.
Oh,
and I find that odd. And Rondell Moore, if you think about it, he's kind of on that borderline bust from what he was expected to be as a first round pick, because this is his 4th year, the last year of the rookie contract. And then there is Desmond Ritter, who's going into his 3rd year and looks like he shouldn't have had his first 2.
Yeah, Ritter was, I think it was a 3rd round pick, Jeremy, by Atlanta back in 2022, I think.
Yeah, out of Cincinnati, made the playoff.
Right. And I guess he's only started, I think, like 16, 17 career games. And I mean, he hasn't really done that much in the short time in the NFL.
My buddy RXJ had a funny one. I'm surprised Desmond Ritter isn't working at a Taco Bell yet. My guy's savage.
I guess Arthur Smith couldn't do too much with him down there in Atlanta.
Oh,
Arthur Smith.
Well, he's our offensive coordinator now. So
yeah, I know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
some will always be a better coordinator than they are a coach.
Absolutely.
It just goes to show you, having the next hot offensive or defensive coordinator go to become a coach, it doesn't always work. The hot new college coach that does something different than everybody else and takes the league by storm and then brings it to the NFL, it doesn't always work.
Well, here's the one, Jeremy, that I'm really quite is Dave Canellis. I mean, this guy, I know he's been a coordinator his whole life, but gosh almighty, he was a quarterbacks coach for the longest time with Seattle and then became an offensive coordinator at Tampa. And I get what he did there with Baker Mayfield, but now he's the head coach at Carolina. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, well, I don't think anybody else wanted that job to begin with.
That's just it. You know, they had to go with inexperience. They had to
Yeah.
bring somebody that wasn't a named head coach, because all the named head coaches wanted to stay as far away from Tepper like they were allergic, because Tepper has been an awful, awful owner ever
He has
since he bought.
$70 million tied up in two former coaches, 30 with Matt Rule and 40 with Frank Reich. So
Oh,
there you are.
But I think when Dan Morgan was called to be the GM and the former linebacker, he basically said, "Listen here, dude, you're not turning me into the next Matt Millen. You're sitting back, shutting up, and signing the check."
oh my gosh.
I'm just
Ouch,
saying,
ouch,
Interesting.
I feel sorry for Will Vogel, but if you actually look, their moves have been pretty good. I like what they've done. They've gutted some of the bad roster. I mean, granted, the move where they traded with the Giants instead of the other move that was offered to them, I find it weird that they turned down the Rams for 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a player for Brian Burns to take what they got in a second and a sixth out of New York. I don't get the math in that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, any other free agency news that we want to talk about? Or is it time
Yes.
for my
Yes, real quick,
Okay.
I have two. The Steelers met today with Tyler Boyd, who's from Pitt and still lives in Pittsburgh. I passed his house on my way to my sister's place, so I know he's still living in Pittsburgh. And they also have met with wide receiver Josh Reynolds. So uh, I think that they're taking a look at that as well. They need to get a couple guys with some experience in here after they got rid of Deontay Dropson. So
I know Jeremy's had his finger up too.
Browns are signing former Steelers and Seahawks linebacker and Michigan Green former linebacker Devin Bush to a 1-year deal.
man,
Interesting.
yeah,
So that trade that the Texans, remember, they traded a 6th-round pick to get Mixon from the Bengals. They
yeah,
have
that was a good move.
and they got him to a 3-year, $27 million extension. That was a great move for the Texans after they let Devin Singletary walk. I think
Well, how
it's
about the Ravens with Derrick Henry? No, they just got faster.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens.
Well, they got more powerful. Henry's
Yeah,
really not faster than who is it? He's faster than J.K. Dobbins, because that guy, as
yeah,
long as he's in there, all he does is sit on the bench because he's hurt. But the other two guys were pretty quick. Henry's not quicker than what he is the guy that gets you yards after contact.
yeah.
He's
He's a
great.
bull
Yeah.
rusher. Yeah,
Yep.
And that's something they haven't had unless J.K. Dobbins is on the field. So I think that's going to help them out a lot. But they lost a lot on defense too, and you can say that about a
we
lot
have
of teams.
two of their linebackers.
Yeah, you have 2 of their linebackers.
Yeah,
They also lost a defensive lineman. They lost a corner. They lost a safety, Geno Stone. They refused to extend him or rework his contract or whatever.
yeah,
I don't know what they're doing in the back end of the. I understand Kyle Hamilton's good, but that's only half the field, people.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, gentlemen. I think we've exhausted some of the not exhausted, because we could go on and on about the NFL free agency.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I think it's time to talk about my town. So, Mr. George, I'm going to let you lead off tonight.
You are? I wonder why. Well, I'm not going to say anything more about the Red Wings because they are self-imploding, unfortunately. But what I did want to talk about is some of the candidates that have been announced. The voting is underway for the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame, which is the greatest honor that you could get if you're an athlete or an administrator in sports in the state of Michigan. I'm not going to touch on everybody, but I do want to tell you about some of the finalists now. They're conducting the voting right now electronically through the internet, and they also have a media panel that votes on it as well. So for professional candidates, Tony Esposito, great goaltender. Cecil Fielder, the great slugger for the Tigers. Larry Foote, who was born in Detroit, obviously had 2 Super Bowl wins, I believe, with Pittsburgh. Kevin Glover, and you know him, of course. He was right up front in the rushing attack alongside Barry Sanders. Pepper Johnson, here's another great guy. He's been to the Super Bowl, played for Ohio State too at one time, and won the 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. We have a boxer named Milton McCrory, who was around the same time as Thomas Hearns, maybe a little bit after Thomas Hearns, but he became a champion boxer, Milt McCrory. Ken Morrow, born in Flint, and Kenny Morrow was on the 1980 USA Olympic team that upset the Miracle on Ice team, the Soviet Union. Pudge Rodriguez, we all know, the catcher for Texas, who came over to Detroit and helped the Tigers reach the World Series in 2006. Rasheed Wallace, remember him?
Yes.
He traded to the Pistons in 2004. All he did was help Larry Brown's team win the NBA championship that year with that team that included Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, and Chauncey Billups. And then the last one, a lady, on which I'm disappointed there's only one woman in this group that's nominated for the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame, and she's a bowler. Her name is Sandra Sherry. She's been one of the top bowlers in the state of Michigan and in the United States for all these years. So, I mean, it's a great ballot. There's lots of other categories. I'm not going to go over them because it could get really, really lengthy. But I did want to mention the media people because, media is dear and near to the hearts of Scott and George. And, of course, the finalists in the media category, Al Ackerman. And Al Ackerman was a controversial sports anchor for Channel 4 in Detroit. Jack Berry, longtime golf writer and hockey writer for the Detroit Free Press and the Detroit News. And Jack Ebling, another great guy that's been a sports writer and a columnist and a radio guy out of Lansing. Don Shane, a great sportscaster on Channel 7, the ABC show here in Detroit. Gus Johnson, you still hear Gus, of course. He's the CBS Sports voice of NCAA football, the NFL, the NBA, and many others. So Gus Johnson is a Detroiter. And then the last media finalist is Julian Gonzalez, a longtime sports photographer, did a great job at the Detroit Free Press in photography, and he's nominated as well. So my hat's off to all of them, and anybody can conduct the vote. You can vote at michigansportshof.org/ballot. So these are the people that have been nominated in my town, and that was my contribution tonight, Candy.
Okay. Ralph, what's happening in your town?
Well, those of you who don't know, or you've been hiding under a rock or spend your time playing Xbox, the Steelers signed Russell Wilson. That's been the big thing within Pittsburgh news. And then the Pirates signed Eric Lauer. And I'm going to ask Candy and George later on about what the story is with Eric Lauer, because I know he's with Milwaukee. But anyway, and the Penguins won tonight 6-3, believe it or not. And tonight they were supposed to be giving away Yarmer Yager bobblehead dolls, and someone stole the shipment that was on its way on a truck.
I heard that.
Yeah. So the people who went to the game tonight expecting a bobblehead and didn't get the memo. There was no bobbleheads tonight but they're going to give them certificates, gift certificates or whatever to come to another game or to a game where they're going to try it again. And we got the baseball season starting up here real soon. Pirates have the most home runs in Grapefruit League and spring training. We have a couple guys who are really, and I use Mike Tomlin's guys. We have a couple of, O'Neal Cruz has been doing pretty well, and Henry Davis behind the plate. And it's looking like the Pirates might not be too bad this year. And then when they just signed Eric Lauer, Chase Anderson, and a few of these guys that are kind of been left out there, Pirates always seem to be able to find that gem at a low price as always. So but there we are with that. So, and our soccer team, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, are expanding their stadium to 13 to 15,000 people because they're outgrowing the stadium they have now, and that's great for soccer. So other than that, that's it for me.
Mr. Smokin' Jeremy B., what's happening in your town?
Well, we traded for a corner, we signed a corner, we re-signed one of our guards. The other one left to go for greener pastures. He joins Matt Stafford there in LA. That's Jonah Jackson. We signed a D tackle today at a 2-year, $27.25 million deal. And we lost the bump on the D line that is known as Burrito Jones. Yes, Burrito Jones is called that because in one-on-one blocking situations, he gets wrapped up hotter than a hot tortilla. So, yes, I'm very happy with this move. As long as Reeder can give us 2/3 of a season, it's going to be 10 times better than what we had at the position last year. And we finally have somebody that can help develop Broderick Martin between Terrell Williams and good old Mr. Reeder. And he had at the podium today. He said a quote about Hutch. He goes, when he's hot, I'll be his biggest cheerleader. And when he's not, I'm going to push him as hard as I can. And I think that's great. We need a vet with that type of fire in the D-line room because that's what we didn't have. Isaiah Buggs was fiery, but he was only fiery with the coach, which is why he got sat down.
Yeah, and at the clubs too, I heard when he was in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. That's basically the nutshell of the Lions.
There you go. Okay, so what's happening in my town? The Brewers were dealt a big blow. If you haven't heard, Devin Williams is expected to miss around 3 months because he has 2 stress fractures in his back. He was diagnosed with fractures on both sides of his T12 vertebrae after visiting a back specialist Wednesday, who adds the right-hander will be shut down for 6 weeks and then rehab for at least 6 weeks more. I don't know about any of you guys, but I cannot imagine having fractures in your back and talking about pitching yet even this season. And he's our closer. Let's face it. We've let some of our other pitchers go. Obviously, Corbin Burns left. Josh Hader had gone, years ago. This is a big blow for the Brewers. And I hope they can overcome it. I'm not exactly sure how. They have other guys that they're going to try and put in there, but they haven't been doing very good at spring training. And yes, it's only spring training, but with a new coach and now some blows like that, that's really going to hurt them. As far as Packers move, obviously the fan favorite Aaron Jones, yes, he stuck it to the Packers, just like a lot of our recent former Packer players like to stick it. And when he stuck it to us because he stayed in the same division and went to Minnesota. But can I say I blame him? No. He took a pay cut last year of $5 million and restructured his contract. This year, he was slated to make, I believe it was 12. And he was going to take a cut. The Packers asked him to take a cut down to $4 million with $2 million in incentives. The Vikings signed him to $6 million with $1 million incentives. Do I blame him? No, because he's 30 years old. He wants to make as much as he can. Do I like the move? Of course not. But we are reminded that this is a business. Players are out there to get as much as they can, as soon as they can, because you don't know how long they're going to be in this game. So they got to do what's right for them. Now, was it right for the Packers? Of course. Was it right for the Packers? That remains to be seen. But Aaron Jones also, just being a fan favorite does not mean we should keep him. And that's one of the things that a lot of fans don't realize is that we need to look at, because it is a business, and those are the GMs, it's their job to make them better. We got younger, faster at running back. We're talking about bringing AJ Dillon back if he passes his physical. Now on to the town that I live in. So Lionel Messi injured his leg and will miss the next game. That's big because let's face it, he is a fan favorite and he draws wherever he goes.
I have a quick question.
The other thing is the Panthers are lights out. I know Jeremy wants to say something. Go ahead,
I
Jeremy.
just wanted to ask, is it still the friendlies right now, the exhibition matches for MLS?
No, they're playing their season.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. They're playing their season. He's expected to miss the next game with the leg injury, which is, let's see, they just beat Nashville 3-1. And then who are they supposed to play? Let's see. It says he will likely miss the team's MLS match Saturday against DC United. They don't want to risk anything. So, but the Florida Panthers are doing well. And let's face it, I already went over March Madness. FAU, USF, Marquette tonight yet. Don't miss. I'm sure that's on right now. In fact, I should look to see if there's a score. I don't even know. Let's quick see. Oh, it says 9:30. Marquette. It is 18-17 Villanova with 5:53 left in the first. So obviously that's a very close game. Again, if you like college basketball, I don't know why you wouldn't be watching. Let's go around the horn how everybody can get a hold of you. So let's start this time with Ralph.
Yeah, our rwmedia.org, www.rwmedia.org is my website. Also on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, X platform, Tumblr, and also you can also reach me on Facebook. And I have a radio show Tuesdays on Beaver County Radio, Sports Corner Radio Show with me, Ralph Williams, and Smoking Jim Frazier. My guest this week will be Michael McHenry, former Pirate catcher and current broadcaster. And also, I'm going to have someone on from Amped Up Sports named David Alexander talk about the Denver Broncos and their thought process with Russell Wilson. And then legendary announcer Bill Hillgrove will join us, talk about his retirement from the Steelers. So I have a great guest list coming up this Tuesday. And don't forget to check out my other podcasts, including my new one called Sports Capsule, where I come on. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. I might come on with some kind of news of some kind.
Okay. George, how can people find you?
Well, before I get to that, I did want to say that JB Ellis of Sideline Sports and the South Florida Journal, he is covering the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden. Now, he gave Scott and I a live report last night. So hats off to JB Ellis. He's sending content and stories to Scott and Candy to get published. And I know you're doing a great job, JB. If you're at the Garden, man, it doesn't get any better than that. Madison Square Garden and college basketball in the month of March. You're right there, baby. So Scott's got a book. I got a book. There's a link to purchase my book or to look at it online. I write for the South Florida Journal. The Motor City trip. I'm getting this all tripped up. I'm sorry, Candy.
It's okay.
The Motor City Tribune, not Journal. But you go and drill under there, and you'll find fine writers like Scott and Jeremy and Jacob and the photography that Candy's done such a great job with over the years. So there's a link at the end of my column for the book that I'm out there promoting. And don't forget, you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. You can follow me on Twitter at sandgsports99. I'm also on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So send me any comments, questions, and topics you want brought up at any number of the shows that I'm on here. I'm happy to be part of tonight's show, as well as 108 Stitches and the Sports Exchange and Pundits Pundit. And I'll shut up right now. That's it for me.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, breaking news.
RXJ comes in and says, breaking news, Keenan Allen traded to the Bears per Rappaport.
Wow.
So
for who?
Yeah, for who?
For draft picks. So that, they only have picks in the first 5 rounds. Granted, they have a bunch of them, but they're all in the first 5 rounds. And if you look at how the NFL is built right now, the rank and file usually comes in the 4th, 5th, and 6th and 7th round. Those are the guys that you typically last the longest because they have the least amount of pressure put on them to perform. Those are the guys that play for the love of the game. They get the lowest amount of money of all the guys drafted and all that. So this might be one of those moves where they're trying to move and get some other picks. If you know the picks, RXJ, put them in there. But that being said, you can find me on the South Florida Tribune.com, where my writings are under the Motor City Tribune heading. You can also find me right here on the South Florida Tribune channel, where I'm on Fire Up. I am now a permanent part of Inside the Pigskin, unless told otherwise. And you might see me on Professor and the Pupil and Allen to the Bears for a 4th rounder. That's it. That's a cheap trade. I'm sorry. Keenan Allen's been a pretty steady producer, and I'm going to give my weigh in on this before I finish up my personal stuff. Keenan Allen's been one of those steady producers, even though he tends to miss that 3 to 4 games a year. He's a guy that just always he's kind of like Mike Evans. He's right around 1,000 yards every year, right around 8 to 10 touchdowns. He's just a solid performer. He was underrated for years, and then all of a sudden he became overrated because everybody was putting him up there so high, and he started getting hurt. But he is older. This is kind of like Thielen going to the Panthers. I think it's more to mold the younger guys that are in the Bears locker room. So I think it's more of a locker room move and a fit for culture. And I think that's a great thing that they're doing because that's what they need. These young guys they got, they just don't seem to know how to work hard. And that's one thing Keenan Allen does. But you can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. Boy, the tongue-tied got contagious. Thanks, George.
Yeah.
And you can also find me on another YouTube channel, which is Football Talk 365, where I go live at 11 a.m. Monday through Friday with Lions Talk with Smoking Jeremy B and my co-host, Dan Von Doom Leonard. You can also find me at night 3 times a week with my Kneecap Biting podcast, where I do Monday nights, which during the off season until the draft happens, it's mock draft Mondays. Then I'm going to take Mondays off for a while because the news kind of really slows down after the draft. And then you have Wednesday, which is my NFL Roundtable Talks, where I go over the top 3 stories of the NFL. And as long as there's other fans in there to ask questions about other teams, I will do my best to answer them. And then Friday nights at 9 o'clock is my Lions Fan Cave chat. That is it in a nutshell. You can find me on Facebook. Right there's my name. You can find me on Twitter at Smoking Jeremy B. You can find me on Instagram at Smoking Jeremy B1. Because the first one got shut down by Instagram, and I don't get it. But they let this one through. And you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Okay, well, let me go through my little laundry list. If you see that red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed to our channel. Why? I don't understand. All this great programming and you haven't subscribed yet? Just hit it. Like us, share us, tell all your friends about us. What was I going to say? So if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. You'll get notifications when we go on. If you like baseball, Monday nights, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. If you like NFL and football, Inside the Pigskin, Tuesday nights. If you like a plethora of different sports, Sports Exchange, Wednesday nights. We talk about anything NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA. We've even talked about cornhole, anything. Thursday nights is normally Pundit's Pundit, and then it's Fire Up. Once in a while on the weekend, you never know what we might sprinkle in another Fire Up, might sprinkle in Professor and the Pupil, Motor City Mad Mouse show might come on from time to time, and that's really a one-on-one interview show. We've had some really good shows this week, so you have to go back. I mean, I think Tuesday night we had over 108 comments, and we had over 80 people viewing at one point. So you got to watch. But go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You will see both the gentlemen on the screen right now, Jeremy and George, both write. My husband, Scott, he writes. My pictures are up. We get transcripts from the Dolphins, the Lions, the Jaguars. We get their latest trade information. JB Ellis is right now, like George said, at the Big East tournament, sending us stories, sending us pictures and videos. Watch those. But most importantly, not only subscribe to our channel, subscribe to the channels of our co-hosts and people that are on the screen with us, because without them helping us, we've got to help them back. They're here donating their time to us. We want you guys to donate and watch them as well. My husband, he wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. I put a copy right smack dab in the front, and George is holding up a copy as well. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it on Barnes & Noble, and we're putting it up on more places. But those are the big places that most people get them, I think. Let's see. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, you can call Scott, 954-304-4941. Again, check out our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. And if you like the audio version of shows and like listening to podcasts, all of our shows are available through iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, Podcast Addict, you name it, wherever you get your podcast, we're on it. Guys, any last final parting shots? Oh,
Well,
I
the Tigers are playing good down in Lakeland. We didn't talk about that, but they're looking forward to the new season. They'll be opening up on the road in Chicago against the White Sox. It's going to be an interesting year. A lot of question marks, obviously, the pitching staff and obviously the young kids. Can they make it? Can they make it above 80 wins this year? A good friend of mine in Scott's named Lynn Henning, a sports writer. Lynn Henning says they're going to win 85 this year. I don't see it happening. I really don't. But who knows? But that's my parting 2 cents on the Tigers. They're still working out down in Lakeland and playing all those endless exhibition games.
Well, I know Smoking Jeremy B, you always close us out. And you always close your shows out. Please ask you to close out ours. So you got the floor.
Thank you. Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. It's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts in here. Much love to everybody. RXJ is undone. And anybody else who came in the chat, we appreciate you. We appreciate the update. It helps us to look like better news broadcasters, to know the current stuff that happens while we're live.
Exactly. Thank you so much for all the comments. And if you have suggestions or want to come on a show, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Well, everybody, enjoy the sports world. everything that's happening in the sports world right now, whether you're an NFL guru and like to watch all these free agency moves, whether you're an NBA fan, whether you're a WNBA fan, or if you're a college basketball fan, March Madness now, or NHL, they're getting ready to get into the playoff season, and baseball has started. I mean, I don't think there's really, I mean, there is a better time in my world, but it's a really good time if you're a sport fan of any of those sports. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.